Good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you very much for invitation. And now, during the next talk, I will tell you a little bit about what we do there in Europe, in Center Finland, Kajaani, with this LUMI EuroHPC Supercomputer. And in addition to that, I will also discuss a little bit about the future. So the topics today, first, I think not all of you know much about CSC, the organization where I come from. So very shortly about CSC, what we are doing. And then, of course, LUMI and the EuroHPC project will be covered. Something about the applications, a little bit about quantum. So how do we see this quantum computing in a context, in the same context with high-end computing? And then, of course, when we are talking about LUMI, I have to talk about the green computing and the environmental friendly environment we have there in this old paper mill in Kajaani. A global collaboration and next steps towards Exascale, and there are plenty of slides. I go some of them pretty quickly, so we have probably some time for a few questions too. But you will get a copy of those actually afterwards. Then if you want to come back to some of these, that's always possible. Okay, and now of course laptop starts making problems. No. All right. So CSC, we are a company of almost 600 people. It's owned by the Finnish state, 70%, and all the universities and University of Applied Sciences are also involved with the 30% of ownership. So it's a limited company, but it's non-profit. So our task is not to make a profit, but make sure that Finland, for example, is competitive and does well in this area. The volume, turnover plus EU funding altogether was something like 75 million euro last year. The books are not yet closed, so next ones we know more exactly, but let's approximately on that level. And there's one very important difference, I think, with CSC and many others. So the only I would say one of the reasons why we can sustain or run some project like size of the LUMI is that in Finland actually everything is centralized. In most of the European countries and also outside Europe, it's decentralized. So there are many centers in some of the countries. But here in Finland, everything is at CSC and also including research networks and so on and so on. So that gives a critical mass and some credibility, and that also helped us in being able to coordinate LUMI project. Okay, so where we work, so mainly, let's say about half of the people are involved somehow with the research environments like high-end computing, AI applications, data, research network, and so on, or building the data center, or running the data center actually. But in addition to that, CSC is also participating in services for education and also culture and public administration. There are some projects with some ministries, for example, which have a technical nature, like AI, for example, or data analytics and so on. But as example, so we are not serving only the research, but we, for example, serve libraries, archives, museums. Also, there is things like long-term preservation of the cultural heritage in Finland, and so on and so on. So there is another side also in CSC. There is some synergies in between, but working pretty differently in some of these cases. And just last point about CSC also is that's one slider. Maybe something I would like to point out is these three bubbles here down. So we are aiming at three strategies targets especially. One of them, the competitive advantage in research ecosystem, is actually what we do with LUMI and the national systems, and in that area. So now when I'm talking about, I will talk mostly about this bubble. Then the other one, this digitality, is actually the digital transformation in universities. Very different topic from the research computing, but also important at the moment in Finland. But this is our traditional area where we have been working from since end of 1980s already, or already earlier. So this is a new area. And then, of course, everything else what we do with data. So the first supercomputer actually arrived in Finland in 1989. So I rejoined CSC 2004, as you maybe heard from the beginning. But the first time I came myself for CSC, it was 1989, together with Gray XMP at some stage. Okay, but that's about CSC. Now the main target, talking about LUMI, European flagship supercomputer, we call it. LUMI actually, it's when we are coordinating, we could influence the name, and that's very nice, of course, because LUMI means snow in Finnish. So that's why everything is more or less white. I mean, it's branded white, but the LUMI is snow, and that's kind of a Queen of the North, Snow Queen, if you have seen that. So that the idea came from there, and then there is also this very friendly looking animal. That's, by the way, it's a Canadian Arctic fox, so very international already. Comparing with, for example, so just to point out that we are not running only LUMI. The LUMI is a European system which is owned by the European Union actually, and hosted by us. But then we have national systems. These are Finnish words. So Allas is a data pool. Allas is a pool in Finnish actually. Mahti, mighty. It's a high-end computing, and then Puhti, workhorse. I would translate it. It's something like a mid-size computing. So that these are Atos and NVIDIA systems, and this one is HPE and AMD. So something like 9.5 petaflops for Mahti, and Puhti a couple of petaflops. So and this one then half an exaflop in theoretically. Okay, so what's important there one thing I forgot to say about CSC, which is also very important, which is probably different from many of you. So CSC, we have a lot of people who have a research background or postdoc background or some research background, but CSC's task is not to do research. We are supporting other people's research. So the research in Finland is done in research centers and universities, and of course then companies too. But when our people are participating in research projects, their task is to support the other researchers to make their task work. So we are a support organization in that sense. Okay, about LUMI, so it's a joint effort from 10 countries. So approximately, I remember we started lobbying about this. Sometime in 2015, 16, 17, there was a lot of discussion in Europe that Europe is lacking behind because all the computers or the high-end computing happens in Japan, US, or China, etc. And there was this EuroHPC program established. I think that was the treaty was signed, if I remember right, 2017 March maybe in Rome, and then afterwards there was a discussion that now European Union should be co-funding high-end computing to enable in Europe this thing. And so far, before that, European Union had not co-funded hardware. It was co-funding only projects like PRAISE, for example. PRAISE project was running. Some of you might have, or many of you might have heard about it. But then the EuroHPC was established, and something like 4 years ago, I remember we had this competition running for the pre-Exascale centers, and then after that. So 4 years ago is 2019, and so summer 2019 CSC was, and also Italy, Bologna and Barcelona were granted these pre-Exascale centers, and then we started to build it. That has been a long journey, and now for example, but I mean, one of the strengths why we were successful here, I would say, one of the major things is that we were able to attract 9 other countries to join the consortium and invest in that, because it is also the first time in the European high-end computing history, I would say, that countries invest together in the location, in the single system, a single environment in one location in one country. So you used to be very eager to invest as long as you get the system in your own backyard. But I mean, nowadays this is the first time that it's a joint effort, and it goes so that this is about 200 million euros. Half of it is funded by European Union. 1/4 of it is or joint undertaking. 1/4 of it, 50 million, is funded by the Finns, and then the rest, the 50 million, is co-funded with the 9 other countries. And depending on how much you fund, depending on that, you will be able to access resources. So the joint the 10-country collaboration was one of the major things here. I mean, now soon, hopefully, we have 11th, because the Holland, Netherlands is planning to join, and let's see how it goes. Hopefully, already quite quickly. And so that was one thing. And the second, if I have another picture about the same. So second point, I would say that was a location here in old paper mill in Kajaani. I come back to that. That's optimal location for data centers, even though it's not in a big city and close to the not many people, but for data centers it's optimal location. So that's another one. And then, of course, the thing that we had critical mass at CSC, so we can handle this kind of thing. So, for example, colleagues in Sweden, we have very good Nordic collaboration too, but it's a different model here. Six small centers and research network. They are different centers, and here is a distributed model. Here, centralized model, but here in this Kajaani thing, we work together. So when you see that it's in center of Finland, it's not northern Finland, as people say. If you want to go to Lapland, you need to go that far, so it's halfway. CSC is somewhere here in Helsinki area, so 600 kilometers from there to data center. Okay, but through the fiber, it's very fast, I would say also. All right, and I mentioned already that the resources can be accessed based on how much you have been investing on them. And by the way, for non-European users, it's also possible to access LUMI, for example, by making collaboration with the European research units or research collaborators. So if the PI or principal investigator of the program is from the European one of these countries, or not only LUMI countries, but one of these countries, then it's possible to access through that. Okay. So something more about what is it? Well, at the moment it's 309 petaflops in Limpach. I mean, this is top 500 stuff. There will be still some practical. So LUMI has been in operation, or CPU part of it has been in operation since the beginning of 22, so more than a year now. And now this month it was taking into production also with GPUs. There is some for the performance permission. Something is still missing, so some 70 petaflops more is about to come this winter, this spring, and but anyway, practically now it's in the final configuration, but final way of running, because not now practically all the parts are there. And the idea behind the LUMI is not that it would be the dedicated only running for the grand challenge tasks or the big tasks, just for the high end jobs. But the idea is it's quite a modular system in that sense, that there are different resources for different needs. And from this picture you see this snowflake here as parts what we have in LUMI. So there is a partition of CPUs, but the main computing power is a GPU, and then there is and one for especially for data analytics, a small one, but anyway. And then there are different kind of storages, and of course a high performance interconnection. But then there are a couple of things that are about to come now later. So So within this LUMI budget and LUMI project, the quantum computers are not involved, of course. They are not very operational either yet, but there has been some testing done, sending as jobs for the small, just for testing, and some small jobs for the quantum computer in Finland, because there is this kind of industry there too. I have something about that later, but that's something which is which is more important probably in the future. But anyway, that connection has been made, and then there is there are some other services, container cloud service, or some others that are coming still later. But practically all of this that is mentioned here, except these two things, is already working and in production. And something more, I think I already mentioned most of microservices on LUMI K and Quantum with LUMI Q, but there is some information about it more. Then just to show that what the configuration of this. So these are these MI 250s here in the GPU side, and AMD Milan there in the CPU side. And about the timeline, most of that I already mentioned, but here are some earlier ones. So actually, first phase of LUMI, the CPU part, was there already in the end of the 2021. Then even if I said that the GPUs arrived in several sets during the last year, but I would say that even in production in January, we have been running a production type of code there already from November timeframe, etc. Also, and some parts also during the year. There have been intensive pilot sessions. Okay, of course, pilots for the CPU side too, but I mean that probably today quite trivial, but quite a lot of different pilot projects during the end of last year in this testing the GPU part, and also stressing the machine into its limits, etc. And I would say that okay, we have quite a good situation, and there has been all kind of, as you know, when you have followed from the news in these new systems like here also LUMI, there has been a lot of things to do to make it stable, etc. But I mean, so far so good. So after quite some work, now it looks pretty good, and I hope it will continue to do so. Okay. I don't go very much detail in the programming environment, just listing what you got here. So just also for you to get the information from this presentation afterwards. So Radeon Open Computer and the great programming environments are of course used, and there is a web pointer for more information. And so here is something more about the traditional HPC programming models, the typical language you've been using for quite some time already, parallel programming and GPU programming. And then there is a difference for in GPU side using the AMD system, but and of course, because our previous or the national system was or is actually Atos as NVIDIA, and also many other people are using NVIDIA. There has been a lot of questions about the portability from NVIDIA or CUDA type of things to AMD. I mean, you know, many of you know much about it already, but I mean, in our experience, even though sometimes there is some work, it's not that problematic in most of the cases. It's quite straightforward. so in the it would say, I would also say it easier than we originally estimated. Okay, and then applications work for LUMI. So we are able to combine CPU and GPU nodes with one node. So and this again, the CUDA codes I mentioned already, it's been converted to heap, and much of the effort is automized. Some of the code needs naturally manual work, and then probably tuning too, etc. And what we try to do at CSC and also the whole LUMI consortium, because we have in LUMI consortium we have distributed services for users. For example, the distributed user management team or the user support team. And so every LUMI country more or less participates by FTE, and actually that's partly paid for the project too. But anyway, so each of these 10 countries, they have somebody who works in the virtual team to support the users with the technical things. But we also do some support in the application and workflow side, and together in the LUMI team, but also depending on each of the country, we have our own supports there. And still one more point about how it's connected. So when that was evaluated, when there was the evaluation between the pre-Exascale sites like BSC Sineca and us in Kajaani. So that was actually, the network connection was already then 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. Was very well working. The biggest score there was given to Kajaani and LUMI. You know, this Kajaani here it's a city of the area is 40,000 people, so it's a pretty small city. So but there are pros and cons, of course. Sometimes it's a challenge when you need to fly there. Well, there are flights nowadays, fortunately. Flights, 1 hour flights from Helsinki, or 1 hour 15 minutes with a small plane, or you can come from Oulu. But on the other hand, there are quite nice other things. For example, when you get to the airport, it's 15 minutes drive, and you are in the data center, and you also bypass the Kajaani city downtown. You might not notice it, but you actually bypass it on between. So, and then the other good point is there are no rush hours because there is not so many people. So anyway, but it's in the center Finland here. But the Finnish Research and University Research Network, FUNET, which is one of our services too, it's something that it's very well developed, I would say, because I mean for example, fiber comes 100 gig comes from four different directions to Kajaani. So it requires quite many caterpillars digging in the wrong place at the same time accidentally to cut the line. So it's very robust in that sense, and this is pretty efficient. So you see that most of the Finnish population is here, and more here. Here there are more reindeers than internet addresses. But anyway, the country, the universities which are, and the University of Applied Sciences, which are in most of these hubs, they are networked together, and then it goes to Nodunet and Geant and so on. Okay, so it's about LUMI in general application areas. So as you probably can imagine, it's a quite wide area. So the idea is that from climate research to medical and everything in between. So all of us, I suppose, have been doing this COVID computing, but also I think at the moment some of the big areas are really, for example, in this climate research, and there are always some of the projects that have been used as a test or the benchmark or the project for these things. And so climate, I have some examples about that more. So it's emerging and going more and more important. Material sciences, that has been at CSC done already for quite some time. And then of course physics, data science, and life sciences. We are also pretty much involved in Elixir, like many of the LUMI countries are. Elixir is for bioinformatics, and then more and more also nowadays humanities and social sciences and natural language processing is one example that actually is a quite big user of the GPU side in now and in the future. Something more about practically approximately same things. We also like to collaborate pretty much in the artificial intelligence area because that naturally the system fits there quite well, and that there are a number of interesting work happening there in Europe and in Finland. That's one of the examples of digital twin of the Earth. destination Earth, where European Centre for Medium Range Weather Forecasts from UK is in a major role. But I mean, for this computing part, LUMI has been allocated that part, and that's in there in this climate digital twin. CSC has also a major role, and LUMI has a major role too, because we are running that system, and there is a big project there. For example, Barcelona is in a key position there also, in addition to CSC and some other people, and of course the major role also from ECMWF. But that's one of the area where quite a lot of also the European resources are supposed to be used in the future, or now already. The other digital twin that might be quite interesting, I think it might be also in many of your table, is the biodiversity. That's something we are coordinating that too. But so digital twin as an example, and during the last half year, I mean, there's quite a lot of discussion has been around these digital twins in general, not only in research but also in industry. For example, last week I was in a seminar in Finland, and I was discussing about the digital twin of the traffic system in Finland, so trains and cars and ships, etc. And there's quite a lot of possibilities and connection also between the research and the industry. Some more I mentioned about the pilot project for GPUs. Here is, I don't expect people to see that list still, but there might be some of your possible collaborators when you get the material. So we try to get the pilot project in from as many LUMI countries as possible, and also beyond. And that was quite well received. I think there are several, not necessarily all of them, but quite many were already running these pilots in the they started to run in August, but I would say that in the October-November timeframe started to be actually even more action coming out of there. And then also something about industry. So we have been doing some industry pilots, not only in LUMI but also in our national system, to be able, hopefully paving the way to LUMI. There are some examples about that. For example, Croak technology, autonomous navigation, for example. So autonomous ships has been something that in Finland have been doing quite some time already. And then speech, for example, start of company with voice interface on different platforms, and so on and so on. So what we hope to be able to do in the future is add more of these, because many of the LUMI countries and LUMI stakeholders are academic type of nature, like CSC too. So at the same time, because in this system, the idea is that maximum 20% of each of the EuroHPC systems would be used for industry, and this is something that we have traditionally not been working too much. So that's one of the focus areas also in the future. Okay, and something about quantum computing activities. So there are some early trials and some quantum systems already available. One can of course debate about the usability for the real application codes about them, but already some integration and testing has been done. And our idea actually is that even if it would be coming later or something like that in the future, so the quantum computing is part of the ecosystem. It's very useful for some areas, and in some areas probably not useful. So as I think it was mentioned yesterday by Satoshi Matsuoka also, there's one of these statements which can be very well. This is that I also agree that quantum does not replace anything. It will complement the high-end computing area in some areas eventually when they will be ready. But what we are now trying to work with is, for example, the software stack, how to make it possible for the quantum system to interact with HPC in the future. So that's one of the areas, and also some testing and early integration of the systems is in the agenda. And there are already some activities. So in Finland, there's a long tradition of cold technology in the university, Technical University of Helsinki, nowadays called Aalto University. And based on that, there is actually even a company called IQM, quantum computing company, has been quite visible, at least in Europe, in the last time. And so there is some roadmap for the State Research Center and the university and this IQM quantum computing that now currently there is a small 5 qubit system is being used, but the 20 and 50 qubits are about to come. And then, of course, if you only think about qubits, there is some differences. So between the IBM qubits and I think these qubits, but anyway, there is a roadmap for the larger quantum systems to be delivered, and also another one in Nordic. So from LUMI, for example, we already have demonstrated that send jobs to this Helmi. And also there is a connection to the Swedish quantum computing. So these early phases. So last March, about 1 year ago, the first job was sent from LUMI to Helmi. Pearl. Helmi is in physical in southern Finland in the State Research Center, and so from Kajaani, 600 kilometers down, and through the network, the jobs were sent there. And so here, okay, that's. But maybe one thing that might be interesting for the future is that what we do in Europe. So in the EuroHPC project, there is this supercomputers. Of course, we have this high-end computing thing, but also number of quantum computing initiatives. So there was a call of quantum for last year, and six projects were chosen. And at the first moments, I would say that it's pretty much testing and building the environment. But one of these 6 projects is called LUMI Q, where many of the LUMI countries, not all, like Iceland and Estonia, is following, and Switzerland participate there. But then there is the Dutch people and some from Germany. So there is a consortium called LUMI Q, where the idea is that there will be a physical quantum computing, and in this case it will be put here in Ostrava in Czech Republic. So as you see, the LUMI is here. Some of the quantum computers that can be used are in different locations where there is a connection. And then from the project, the new quantum computing will be established in Czech Republic. And okay, it's likely that in the future also there will be other projects, other quantum projects coming from EuroHPC. So European Union is willing to fund also the quantum computing in Europe. Okay, so that's about there's most of this part, but then something about also this green computing and this Kajaani in general, and so what's gonna happen in the future? So now there used to be 3 paper machines, and the peak utilization of the electricity with 3 paper machines was 235.5 megawatts, and we came there with the LUMI with less than 10 megawatts or 10 megawatt computing system. So it was of course a huge disappointment for the electricity producer in Kajaani, but anyway, so that gives you a little bit about the scope for this, that what kind of industry there used to be in the paper factories. So the paper machines are gone for quite some time already, and this is renovated. But I mean, in Finland and Sweden, for example, the paper industry has been very strong already quite long ago. But now, because the wood is growing faster in Southern America, so some of the paper factories have been closed, and of course, big problems with the unemployment, etc. But then the production is there in the other places. but some of the paper factories have been now reused for computing. For example, one of the major ones who known is the Google Computing Center is in one of the other paper mills. I think it must be something like 70 or 80 megawatts, or even more than 100 nowadays. But so these are pretty good for this area. So they're very reliable. Also in 1982 there was a outage, 2 minutes. That was a catastrophe, of course, because it was then the paper machines were running. But since then, okay, we didn't calculate. We made one break when we were building, but I mean that nobody noticed. So it's really reliable. And then of course also here one of the things is that we use only renewable energy. At the moment, this 200 megawatts is hydro, and you can get other sources too. And then because, for example, in here we can't do it, or we don't do it in the national system because it's actually not big enough to be feasible or let's say profitable. But in LUMI, the waste heat is used and it's sold back to the electricity company. So one third of the cost, for example, comes back. So I changed this because the figures are changing, and now, especially after Ukrainian war, the electricity price is up quite a lot. In most of the cases, in LUMI's case, not because we have old contracts which are quite favorable, but this reasonable price was 40 euros per megawatt hour just before Ukraine, and it's not very much different at the moment now, which means that you get the tax benefits for green energy, and then you sell back the heat, and then you get money back. And this for 40 euros, if you compare, for example, with 180 sometimes in some places in Germany or something like that. And actually during the Ukraine, or let's say that during the energy crisis, I heard the figures like more than 300 euros per megawatt hour, etc. But of course, it depends on the contract. Anyway, it's quite it's very reasonable, I would say, if electricity ever can be reasonable. PUE, I would say that in LUMI PUE, because you take the waste heat back, LUMI PUE is 1.2 at something. But I mean, for example, our air-cooled cabinets in the national system, you can run them practically. You cool them by opening the windows, so it's quite a good system. So it's good. That can be also kind of a study for the future. Okay, and now we Finns are known. We have stereotype that we don't speak much if we speak at all. And I now noticed I've spoken 40 minutes and 10 minutes time, so less than 10 minutes. So I speed a little bit. But I mean, here is something about this area. You see, okay, so LUMI is here. Our national systems are here. There is national grid substation. You get quite nice. There will be some solar here, even though, believe it or not, in Finland there is also sunshine sometimes, and some other areas will be built there. But there is quite a lot of space. So what we expect in the future for this, also the environment, that they're trying to attract the other stakeholders and other companies or research infrastructures also in the same area. There's quite a lot of possibilities to do more also. And by the way, that's how it looks like outside. It's a bit snowflake, though the systems are here inside. So this is quite large. It's difficult maybe a bit to describe here. Maybe here you see it better. Okay, this proves that this is from winter, not this winter, but last winter. So there is really snow in Kajaani. And so here is the construction phase. And if you go to the other side here behind this one, then I mean there is some more space in the same hall, and there are 2 of these halls, and then other things also around. We did some mock-ups. So this one is now the LUMI. This is not existing. It's just a planning, but it's possibility also to obtain. It's in 2 floors, so electricity and the cooling, etc. equipment here. And here is actually are the systems, and so on and so on. And I already mentioned about the sustainability thing. So because the waste heat is used for warming the 1/5 of the Kajaani flats. There is cold enough that we need warming there. Then actually the local national or the local electricity company does not burn fossil fuels for that. So we will even claim that practically the carbon footprint is practically negative. So if that's the case, it of course logically that building a lot of data centers there, you will save the environment. So I don't know if that mathematics goes that far, but anyway. And so there is some 200 hectares and brownfield existing space in the paper mill, and then if it runs out, then more, then it can be built. They can build more. Global collaboration. One of the reasons also here, I would say that we have MOUs. It's from also with Japan. That's a picture from the inauguration. Thanks very much for you Satoshi Matsuoka and the team coming up in Kajaani. It's a far way. Our next goal is, of course, to have a direct flight between Kobe and Kajaani. So that's lobbying Finnair. And something about, so we have a collaboration now starting in 3 areas, for example, benchmarking, green data centers, and the collaboration with researchers, and so on. And the last thing just to present here is a bit about Exascale and beyond. So the EuroHPC project at the moment, there are 9 so-called petaflop sites where also EU is funding a little bit. Not all of them are there yet, 5 first years, but 4 in some European. And then there are three as I mentioned, this pre-Exascale, which is Barcelona, Italy, and us. And both Italy and Barcelona should be also operational this year. Now then, first Exascale project has been launched in Germany, and Jülich is building that, and I assume that my French colleagues are going to do something there too in the future. And then, of course, there is no decision and no vision in this post-Exascale, but of course we are planning what to do after the LUMI in 26 and so on and so on. And though I saw yesterday quite clear and let's say good plans for here in Fugaku and in US. I think in Europe we have some scenarios, but we don't have that firm plans until the end of the 2020s yet, etc. But there are some uncertain some areas where we work. So what will be the role for the European processor technology? Will the industry take a bigger role here? Funding structure is open now. It's 50-50 funding in these Exascale and pre-Exascale. In Petascale is 35 funding from the Commission. And power utilization, does it play a role, etc. in the cost and etc. and so on. And anyway, one is clear that the collaboration is increasing in HPC. So these are the questions that we need to address now this year and after this year. It's very interesting and promising future, but of course there is a lot to work. So with this last slide, I would thank you, and well, it's just a picture about the MOU from last May when we were signing a MOU. So now let's see that Satoshi is quite much taller than me. It's here, but yeah. Anyway, this one is not our prime minister. It's Prime Minister of Foreign Affairs, but the minister anyway. But this Prime Minister delegation visited Japan, and we signed this MOU, and that was start of the great collaboration so far. I think that is very nice and very important for us. So thank you very much for this invitation, and thanks.